The house was quiet. Too quiet. Michael sat on the edge of his mother's bed, staring at the pale sheets. The room smelled faintly of her perfume, something floral and sweet, but it did not comfort him. Today, everything had changed. His mother, the one person who had always been there, was gone. The doctors had called it sudden. Michael did not understand how someone could be gone in a single breath, leaving the world behind like it was never theirs to begin with. He pressed his hands to his face and tried not to cry, but the tears came anyway, slipping down like tiny rivers he could not stop. He felt lost, empty. The walls around him seemed taller than ever, closing in slowly. Every small sound made him jump. A creak in the floor, a whisper of wind through the window. He thought he could hear her voice calling his name, soft and distant, but when he turned, there was nothing. Just shadows stretching across the room. Michael got up and walked slowly toward the window. The sky outside was gray, clouds heavy and low. The world seemed to mourn with him. He wanted someone to be here, anyone. But the house was empty. His father had been gone for years. His friends were busy with their lives. Michael was all alone. He wandered into the living room, his footsteps echoing on the wooden floor. The clock ticked loudly, each second a hammer on his heart. He sat down on the couch and wrapped his arms around himself. He remembered how his mother used to sit there, knitting or reading. She had a calm presence, always knowing what to say, always knowing how to make him feel safe. But now she was not there, and Michael could not stop thinking about how final it all felt. As he sat, he noticed something strange. A shadow moved across the corner of the room. Michael froze. The room was empty, or so he thought. The shadow lingered, almost like it was watching him. He blinked and it was gone. He told himself it was his imagination. He told himself the loss had made him see things. But deep inside, a cold chill ran down his spine. Michael went to the kitchen to pour himself some water, hoping the cold glass would make him feel alive. The lights flickered. He frowned. The house had never done that before. He shook his head. Maybe it was the storm outside. Maybe it was him. He tried to breathe slowly, in and out, but his heart was racing. He felt like someone was near, watching, waiting. He remembered the phone call from the hospital. He remembered the words, "I'm sorry," and "We did everything we could." His mother had smiled at him this morning, and now, just hours later, she was gone. Michael wanted to scream, to shout at the world for being so cruel. But no sound came out. He was trapped in silence, trapped in fear, trapped in grief. He walked back to his mother's room. Her bed looked empty, her pillow untouched. He sat down again, burying his face in the sheets. And then he heard it. A whisper, soft and faint, almost like the wind. "Michael." He lifted his head. No one was there. His eyes darted around the room, heart pounding. "Mom?" His voice shook. The whisper came again, closer this time, almost in his ear. "Stay." Michael jumped up. The room felt colder now, colder than the autumn air outside. The shadows seemed to stretch, reaching toward him. He wanted to run, but his legs felt heavy, like they were glued to the floor. The whisper came again, this time clearer. "Stay. Forever." He backed away toward the door, shaking. His mind raced. Was he imagining it? Was grief making him see things? But the voice sounded real, too real. The shadows on the walls twisted unnaturally, as if they were alive. Michael felt a presence in the room, something unseen but powerful. Fear and curiosity battled inside him. He wanted to leave, but he could not. Some part of him wanted to know, to understand. He ran to the hallway, breathing hard. He tried to turn on every light, hoping to chase away the shadows, hoping the voice would disappear. But the lights flickered and dimmed. The whisper followed him. "Stay." Forever. Michael's hands trembled. He leaned against the wall, sliding down to the floor. His mind was spinning. He missed his mother so much it hurt, and now something else, something he could not explain, was in the house. The fear gnawed at him, sharp and cold. But even in that fear, he felt a pull, a strange need to stay, to listen, to understand the voice that seemed to call him. The night was falling, and with it, the world grew darker. Michael hugged his knees, listening to the whisper, listening to the shadows. He was alone, yes, but he was not alone. Something was here with him, something that wanted him to stay. And Michael did not know if he could leave, even if he wanted to. The house was quiet again, almost peaceful. Almost. But the whisper lingered, soft and unbroken. "Stay. Forever. Michael closed his eyes, unsure if he wanted to sleep or if he even could. The night had just begun. The stranger Michael did not sleep that night. He stayed on the floor of his mother's room, hugging his knees, listening to the shadows. Every creak of the house made him jump. Every whisper made him shiver. The words "stay, forever," repeated in his mind, soft and steady, like a heartbeat he could not escape. Hours passed. Though he could not tell how many, the room felt alive, like it breathed around him. And then he saw it. At first he thought it was a trick of the moonlight. A figure stood at the edge of the room, tall and thin, almost blending with the shadows. Michael froze. The figure did not move, but he felt its eyes on him. A chill ran down his spine. "Who's there?" he whispered, his voice cracking. The figure stepped forward slowly. It was a man, or maybe not entirely a man. His features were sharp, almost too perfect. His eyes glowed faintly in the dark, not with light, but with something else, something Michael could not name. "Do not be afraid," the stranger said. His voice was calm, smooth, like silk brushing over glass. "I mean you no harm." Michael shook his head, trying to stand, but finding his legs weak. Who are you? How did you get in?" The stranger smiled faintly, but it was not warm. It felt like the kind of smile that could see into your mind. "I have been here," he said, "since the moment she left. I'm here for you." Michael's heart raced. "For me? Why?" "I don't understand." "You are afraid," the stranger said, taking another step closer. "You do not have to be. I can make it better. I can keep you safe." Michael wanted to run, but his fear rooted him to the floor. Something about the stranger was wrong. Not human wrong, but something else. Something old and sharp. Michael could feel it in the air around him. His skin crawled, his heart thumped so loudly he thought the stranger could hear it. I can't," he said, shaking his head. "I can't stay. You're not real. You can't be real." The stranger's eyes seemed to glow brighter. "I am as real as your fear. And as real as your grief. Do you feel it? The emptiness, the cold? That is where I live. That is where I can help you." Michael swallowed hard. He did feel it. The emptiness. The cold that gnawed at his chest. The darkness that stretched from wall to wall. He wanted to close his eyes and pretend it wasn't there, but he could not. And then slowly a thought crept into his mind. Maybe the stranger can help. Maybe he can make it stop. I don't know," Michael said softly, his voice barely audible. "That is all right," the stranger said. He knelt down, though his body seemed impossibly still and calm. "You do not need to know. Just stay tonight. One night. Let me be here with you. Just one night, and then you may leave if you wish." Michael hesitated. The air felt thick, heavy. His mind screamed to run, but another part, a smaller part, whispered, "Maybe it will help. Maybe I can feel safe. I will stay one night," Michael said finally, his voice shaking. "But only one night." The stranger's smile widened, but it did not reach his eyes. "One night. That is all I ask." Michael watched as the stranger moved closer to the bed, his long shadow stretching over the sheets. Every step was silent, almost floating. Michael felt a pull, a strange curiosity, like he wanted to know what the stranger truly was. "You will see things tonight," the stranger said. "Things that are hidden from your eyes. You may not understand, but you will learn, and you will not be alone." Michael's stomach churned. "Learn what?" "That there is more than this world," the stranger said. His voice was soft now, almost gentle, almost comforting. "There are places you cannot imagine, and I can show them to you. But first you must trust me. You must stay." The shadows in the room seemed to shift. The walls no longer looked solid. They pulsed and moved like a living creature. Michael rubbed his eyes. He wanted it to be a trick, a dream. But it was real. The stranger's presence filled the room, pressing against him, and yet it was not hostile. Not yet. Michael sat on the bed, trying to make sense of everything. The fear did not leave, but it mingled with a strange wonder, a quiet pull toward the unknown. He did not understand what was happening, but one thing was clear. This stranger, this being, had changed the night. And Michael could not turn away, even if he wanted to. The stranger knelt by the window, gazing outside at the darkened sky. "Soon," he said softly, almost to himself, "he will see what lies beyond." Michael watched him, his heart thumping. He wanted answers, but he was too afraid to ask. He could only sit there, listening to the house breathe around them, listening to the silence that was no longer empty. And then, As the wind howled against the window, the stranger whispered, not to Michael, but to the shadows themselves. Tonight, he will choose. Michael shivered, feeling the weight of the words, feeling the night stretch before him, long and uncertain. One night. That was all. But even that one night, he realized, might change everything. The stranger turned his glowing eyes toward him. Are you ready? He asked. Michael swallowed hard. He nodded. The night had begun. The night inside Michael followed the stranger through the house, his feet dragging as though the floor itself wanted to hold him back. The shadows stretched long and strange around him, twisting like living things. The stranger moved silently, almost floating, his glowing eyes cutting through the darkness. Michael's heart raced. He did not know if he was terrified or mesmerized. Perhaps it was both. The stranger stopped in the living room. It had changed. The furniture seemed rearranged, but not in a normal way. Chairs leaned at impossible angles. The clock on the wall spun backward, and the light from the moon filtered through the window in silver shards, sharp enough to feel like cold knives on the skin. Michael blinked. It was not real. It could not be. You feel it, do you not? The stranger asked. His voice was calm, but it carried power, a quiet command that made the room hum in the air. The night is alive. It listens, it moves, it waits. Michael shivered. I feel it, he said. His voice sounded small, almost swallowed by the room. Good, the stranger said. That is the first step. He extended a hand toward Michael. Come, see what lies hidden in the dark. Michael hesitated. The shadows stretched toward him, beckoning, warning. He wanted to turn and run, but something stronger pulled him forward. A strange curiosity, a need he could not name. He took the stranger's hand. The air was colder than the night outside, and a tingling ran through his fingers. The stranger led him to the hallway. The walls pulsed softly like breathing flesh. The floor beneath their feet was smooth but not solid. Michael could feel it shift under him faintly. Each step was an effort, like walking through water. He wanted to speak, to ask what was happening, but words seemed useless. The room around him was alive, and Michael understood he was stepping into something he could not escape. Do you see them? The stranger asked, pointing to the far end of the hallway. Michael squinted. Figures moved there, barely visible. Shadows, yes, but more. Faces flickered in the darkness, some familiar, some strange. His mother's face appeared for a moment, smiling, but it twisted into something he could not recognize. He blinked, and it was gone. They are memories, the stranger said, reading his fear. Not all are yours. Some are truths the night hides from you. Watch but do not touch. Listen but do not speak. Michael's stomach churned. Why are you showing me this? To prepare you, the stranger said. One night. That is all I promised. But what happens tonight will last forever in your mind. You must be ready. Michael felt sweat run down his back. He tried to pull away, but the stranger's hand was firm, guiding him forward. The hallway seemed to stretch endlessly. Shadows dancing along the walls, whispering words he could not understand. Some were soft, sweet, almost like his mother's voice. Others were sharp and cold, like knives on his skin. Finally, they reached a room at the end of the hallway. The door appeared solid at first, but as the stranger opened it, Michael saw it was like water, flowing and shifting. He could see through it into another space, one that was both familiar and alien. The walls glowed faintly. The floor shimmered like glass, and floating shapes drifted in the air, moving with no sound. Michael stepped in cautiously. The air was thick, almost sweet, and the shadows inside the room whispered his name. His mother's face appeared again, floating among the shapes, smiling, calling him softly. His heart ached. Mom, he whispered. She is part of what you fear, the stranger said, and part of what you hope. Do not be fooled. You cannot cling to her, Michael, but you may learn from her. Michael's mind spun. The room seemed alive. Shapes twisted around him, and he felt them looking at him, judging him, calling him forward. The stranger's eyes glowed brighter. The night will test you. You must stay, even if it frightens you. Fear is a guide, not a cage. Michael wanted to run, but the shadows seemed to fold around him, holding him in place. His mother's voice called again, soft and fading. Stay. Stay with me. His chest tightened. The pull of grief was almost unbearable. The stranger knelt beside him. You will see truths tonight, things hidden from your waking mind. Do not fight them. Accept them. They are part of your journey. Michael swallowed hard, trying to steady his trembling hands. He wanted to ask what journey, what truths, but he could not. The room pulsed, breathed, shifted. Shapes moved around him. Whispers grew louder, some sweet, some cruel. He realized he was not just watching. He was inside the night itself, and then he saw it. A figure standing beyond the shapes. It was tall, taller than the stranger, but also human. Its face was obscured by shadows, but its eyes glowed like molten gold. The room seemed to shrink around it, the shapes parting as it moved closer. Michael froze. Fear gripped him like ice. But another feeling surged, a strange, daring curiosity. He wanted to understand, to touch the unknown, to see what lay beyond. The stranger placed a hand on his shoulder. "Remember," he whispered, "one night. Do not leave. The night will not forgive." Michael nodded even as his heart pounded. He did not fully understand what awaited him, but he knew one thing. He could not turn back. Not now. The shadows shifted, the shapes danced, and the night inside the house stretched on, endless and alive. Michael took a deep breath, ready to step further into the unknown. The stranger's eyes glowed faintly. "Tonight," he said, "you will begin to see what it means to stay. Forever." Memories and fear. Michael could feel the weight of the night pressing on him. The shadows moved with a life of their own, wrapping around his legs and arms, whispering words he almost understood. His mother's voice came again, soft, distant, and yet impossibly close. "Michael." He ran his hands through his hair, trying to shake the feeling that the room itself was alive. It pulsed and breathed with each heartbeat. Every shadow seemed to have eyes, every whisper a face. He shivered, but he could not leave. The stranger had said one night. One night. That was all. And somehow Michael knew the night would stretch longer than any clock could measure. The stranger stood silently behind him, his glowing eyes steady and calm. "Do not fight it," he said softly. "What you see tonight is not your imagination. It is memory and fear. Both are real." Michael looked around. The shapes floating in the room began to solidify, forming scenes from his past. His childhood home, bright and warm, appeared in one corner. His mother stood there smiling as she taught him to tie his shoes. Michael's chest ached with longing. He stepped closer, wanting to reach out to touch her. But as he did, the scene warped. The walls cracked, the light dimmed, and the mother he remembered twisted, her smile fading into something unfamiliar, almost cruel. "Memories are fragile," the stranger whispered. "Fear twists them. Love twists them. You cannot trust all that you see." Michael stumbled backward. Why is it like this?" he asked, his voice shaking. "Why can't I just see her as she was?" "Because you must face more than loss," the stranger said. "You must face the part of you that clings, the part of you that cannot let go. Only then will you see the truth." The shadows around Michael thickened. They pressed close, whispering, murmuring, echoing voices he recognized. Some were kind, gentle, familiar. Others were harsh, cold, biting. One voice, soft and trembling, sounded exactly like his own. It repeated, "Stay, stay, stay." Michael turned to the stranger. "I can't do this. I can't." "You can," the stranger interrupted, firm but calm. "Fear is the guide. Do not run from it. You must accept it. Only then will the night show its secrets." Michael's knees buckled. He sank to the floor, hugging himself. The room shifted. Scenes from his past flickered in the darkness. Birthday parties, quiet nights with his mother reading to him. Moments he had forgotten. And in between them, shadows crept, hiding truths he could not yet see. He saw a younger version of himself crying on the floor after his father left. His mother had comforted him, but even that scene warped, twisting into something unsettling. Her voice, once warm, now whispered with an edge he could not recognize. "You cannot leave me. You will stay." Michael covered his ears, trying to block it out, but the voices grew louder. The shadows pressed closer. Panic gripped him like iron. He wanted to flee, but every door, every wall seemed to stretch and twist, keeping him trapped. "Do you feel it?" the stranger asked softly. "The fear? The grief? They are not enemies. They are the key. You must embrace them." Michael wanted to scream, but his voice caught in his throat. He felt small, lost, a child again in a world that no longer made sense. And then, unexpectedly, a memory flickered. His mother holding him in her arms, whispering, "You are safe." It was real. It was true. For a moment, Michael's fear softened, but the moment did not last. The shadows grew again, dark and twisting. Shapes formed that he did not recognize. Faces appeared, strangers with eyes that glowed like the stranger's. Whispers filled the room. Stay forever. Michael's heart pounded. He tried to stand, tried to move, but the floor felt sticky like it wanted him to remain. Panic and longing warred inside him. He wanted his mother. He wanted safety. He wanted the nightmare to end. The stranger knelt beside him. Memories are powerful, he said, but fear is stronger. You must see them together. Only then can you choose. Michael looked at him, trembling. Choose what? To accept the night, the stranger said simply. Or to be consumed by it. Michael swallowed. His chest ached. The shadows pulsed. Voices whispered. He thought of his mother. Her love, her warmth, and the fear that this world, this night, might never let him go. Slowly, he took a deep breath. The shadows pressed closer, the whispers louder, but he did not move away. He did not fight. He closed his eyes and let himself feel everything. The grief, the fear, the longing, the memory. And in that moment, the room seemed to shift almost imperceptibly. The fear did not vanish, but it became part of him, a guide rather than a cage. The stranger stood. Good, he said quietly. You are beginning to see. Michael opened his eyes. The shadows had not gone, but they seemed different, less hostile. The shapes around him shifted into new forms, new possibilities. His mother's face appeared again, smiling, but this time it felt calm, steady, real. Not a memory twisted by fear. Michael's chest eased slightly. The night was still alive, still pulsing, but for the first time he felt he was not just a victim of it. He was part of it. The stranger's voice echoed softly. The night will test you still, but you have taken the first step. You have faced your fear. Michael nodded, trembling. I think I understand. The stranger's eyes glowed faintly in the dark. Good. The night has only just begun. And as Michael sat there, surrounded by shadows and memories, he realized one thing clearly. There was no turning back. Not now, not ever. The choice Michael sat alone in the shifting room, surrounded by shadows and memories that pulsed like living things. The stranger's glowing eyes never left him, calm and steady, as if he already knew the answer Michael struggled to find. The whispers of the night floated in the air, soft but insistent. Stay. Stay forever. Michael's chest tightened. He felt torn between two impossible paths. One was to stay, to accept the stranger's world, the night alive around him, and never return to the normal world again. The other was to leave, to walk out into the empty, cold house outside, alone with only his grief for company. The choice weighed on him like a mountain pressing on his shoulders. Do not be afraid to choose, the stranger said, his voice calm but firm. The night does not judge. But you must decide. Fear will not leave you, Michael. It will follow, but it will also guide. Michael shook his head. I don't know if I can. His voice sounded small, almost swallowed by the room. I don't know if I want to leave. Or stay. The stranger knelt beside him. Then you must look deeper. Look past the fear. See what lies beyond the grief. Michael closed his eyes. Memories swirled in his mind. His mother's laughter, the warmth of her hug, the sharp sting of losing her. He saw himself as a child, clinging to her hand, begging her to stay. And now, as a young man, he felt that same pull. The stranger's world promised him comfort, a place where grief could be softened, pain erased. But at what cost? The shadows around him began to move differently, more deliberate. Faces appeared in them, some familiar, some alien. His mother's face flickered, smiling but unreadable, her eyes full of longing. Then other faces appeared, friends, strangers, even his father, all whispering, calling, judging. Stay, stay. The voices intertwined with his memories until he could not tell which was real. Fear is not your enemy, the stranger said. It is the voice of choice. You must hear it clearly to understand. Michael swallowed hard. He thought about staying. If he stayed, he would never be alone again. The shadows would bend to his mind. He could see his mother again, hear her voice. He could escape the cold reality outside. But a small, stubborn voice in his mind whispered, If I stay, will I still be me? Will I ever leave this night? He looked at the stranger. If I stay, what will happen to me? The stranger's glowing eyes softened, but their light was still unnerving. You will be part of the night. You will remember your world, but it will feel distant. You will feel your mother's love again. You will feel no pain, but some part of you will be gone. Michael felt a chill crawl up his spine. Some part of him gone? Could he live like that? Could he trade a piece of his soul for comfort? His heart ached at the thought of losing himself entirely, even if it meant never feeling pain again. "And if I leave?" he asked, his voice trembling. "Fear will follow," the stranger said. "The night will not forgive easily. You will return to the world outside, but your grief will remain. You may feel weak, alone, haunted, but you will remain you." Michael's chest tightened further. He could almost feel the pull of the night, tugging at his thoughts, whispering promises. "Stay and you will never feel alone again. Stay and the pain will end." He wanted it. God, he wanted it. But the thought of losing himself, of never fully returning to the world he knew, it terrified him. The shadows thickened, forming hands that reached for him. The whispers became a chorus, urging him to surrender. Stay forever." Michael backed away, heart hammering. I can't, he whispered, tears running down his cheeks. He wanted comfort. He wanted his mother. He wanted the pain to vanish. But the idea of being consumed, of losing himself entirely, it was worse. The stranger tilted his head. "Then you must choose. Not out of desire, not out of fear, but out of truth. Which is your reality? Which is your choice?" Michael closed his eyes. He felt the weight of the night pressing on him, felt the pull of the shadows, the allure of the stranger's world. He felt grief clawing at his chest, and yet he felt a spark of resolve, a stubborn, fragile part of himself that refused to vanish. I choose," he whispered, opening his eyes. His voice was small but firm. "I choose to leave." The stranger's expression did not change, but the air shifted. The shadows seemed to recoil slightly, and the whispers softened. "Stay forever?" became distant, almost lost in the pulsing darkness. "Very well," the stranger said. "You will leave. But remember this. The night will always call. You may walk away, but it will not release you completely. You have made your choice, Michael. But the echoes of tonight will remain." Michael felt a strange relief mixed with fear. He took a deep breath and stepped forward, away from the stranger, toward a door that shimmered at the edge of the room. It led to his house, the familiar, cold, empty world outside. The shadows tried to reach for him, but he kept moving, guided by the tiny, stubborn spark inside himself. When he stepped through the door, he was back in the quiet house. The moonlight was soft, and the shadows no longer moved unnaturally. The whispers were gone, or at least faint enough to ignore. Michael sank to the floor, exhausted, trembling but alive. The night had tested him. It had shown him fear, grief, memory, and longing. And he had chosen to remain himself, to face the world outside with all its pain and loss. But somewhere in the darkness, the stranger watched. And somewhere the night waited, patient and unbroken, whispering faintly, "Stay, forever." Michael closed his eyes, knowing he had survived the night, but also knowing that part of him would never truly leave it behind. Transformation, Michael thought he had escaped the night. He thought the stranger, the shadows, the whispers, everything, had stayed behind when he returned to the quiet house. But the world outside was not as solid as he had believed. The air felt thicker now, heavier. Even in the familiar living room, the furniture seemed slightly off, like it was moving just at the edge of his vision. The moonlight that streamed through the window shimmered unnaturally, reflecting in odd angles that made the floor appear to ripple. Michael rubbed his eyes. Perhaps he was tired, or perhaps the night had not yet let him go. He tried to tell himself it was imagination. He tried to breathe slowly, to ground himself. But when he glanced at the mirror, his reflection froze him in place. It was not exactly him. His eyes glowed faintly, like the stranger's. His face, though still his own, seemed sharper, more defined. Shadows clung to him unnaturally, curling around his form in silent, pulsing waves. Michael stumbled back, heart pounding. He pressed his palms to his cheeks. Was this real? Had he changed? "You are beginning to see," the stranger's voice echoed softly, though Michael could not see him. "The night leaves a mark on those who enter. Transformation is inevitable." Michael's stomach churned. I didn't ask for this," he whispered. His voice sounded strange to him, almost too deep, too resonant. He moved his hands in front of his face. The shadows responded, curling around his fingers, wrapping and twisting like liquid. "You cannot undo what has begun," the voice continued. "But you can learn to control it. You can embrace it or be consumed by it." Michael staggered to the floor, trying to ground himself. He felt the shadows coiling tighter, almost testing him, probing for weakness. The memories of the night, the whispers, the twisted shapes, his mother's voice, flooded back with unbearable intensity. He could see them all at once, the distorted memories, the faces in the darkness, the longing, the fear. And then he realized something. The fear, the grief, the night, it had changed him. Not just inside, but outside too. The air around him pulsed with energy. He could feel it in his veins, a strange warmth mixed with cold. A power he had never known, never imagined. The shadows shifted in response to his thoughts, forming shapes that mirrored his emotions. When he felt anger, they grew sharp and jagged. When he felt fear, they twisted and loomed, reaching toward him like tendrils. And when he thought of his mother, they softened, shimmering with pale light, wrapping him in something that felt almost like comfort. "You see," the stranger's voice said, calm but firm. "The night does not only take, it gives, it reveals. You have survived, but survival comes with change. You are no longer just Michael. You are part of it now." Michael shook his head, unsure whether to be terrified or amazed. He felt the pull of the shadows, but he also felt control. Barely, faintly, but enough. He extended a hand and the shadows responded, coiling around his fingers like living ribbons. He gasped. What is happening to me?" he asked. "You are transforming," the voice said. "The night and the stranger leave a mark. You can choose how to shape it. You can embrace the change or resist, but resistance comes at a cost." Michael's mind raced. Could he control this power? Could he return to the world he had known? Or was that world gone forever? He felt a sudden surge of longing, a pull toward the night he had refused. What if staying had been easier, safer? What if he had surrendered to the shadows? But then he remembered his choice, the decision to remain himself, to face the outside world with all its pain. A strange calm settled over him. He took a deep breath and focused. The shadows responded, coiling and retracting, but not disappearing. They wrapped around him, but this time like armor rather than chains. A flicker of confidence surged through him. He could feel the night in him, and yet he was still Michael. "You have begun to understand," the stranger said. "Transformation is not only fear. It is power. It is knowledge. It is memory and loss and longing made real. You can wield it or it can wield you." Michael stood slowly, testing the change. The shadows around him moved with his thoughts, bending to his will in small ways. His reflection in the mirror now looked more like a hybrid of himself and the night, but he recognized it. For the first time, he did not panic. He could feel control, fragile but real, threading through the power inside him. I think I can," he whispered, voice steadier. "I can control it. I can use it." "Good," the stranger said. "Remember, the night is patient. It waits for those who hesitate. But you have learned its first lesson. Survival is only the beginning. Transformation is the next step." Michael looked around his home, the familiar world that now felt slightly alien. He realized that even though he had chosen to leave the stranger's world, he had not escaped entirely. A part of the night, a part of the shadows remained with him, and yet he was not afraid. He could feel it. The fear, the grief, the longing, all transformed into something that pulsed inside him, waiting to be shaped. He took a deep breath, letting the shadows settle around him like a cloak, and stepped forward. The night had changed him. But now, for the first time, he felt ready to face it. And somewhere in the darkness, the stranger watched, silent and patient, as Michael embraced the first true taste of what it meant to live between the worlds, neither fully human nor fully night. The conclusion. Twist ending. Michael stood in the middle of his living room, the shadows from the night now coiling softly around his body like a protective cloak. The house was quiet, or at least it seemed quiet. The moonlight fell in gentle silver stripes across the floor, but it did not feel normal anymore. He could sense the lingering pulse of the night in every corner, in every shadow, in every breath of air. It was part of him now. He had survived. He had transformed. But he could still feel the stranger watching, patient, silent, waiting. Michael's thoughts returned to the night he had chosen to leave. He remembered the whispers, the distorted memories, the shifting shadows, and his mother's voice calling him softly, sometimes kind, sometimes strange, and he remembered his choice to step back into reality, to remain himself even if it meant living with grief. That choice had shaped him. The night had tested him and he had passed, but at a cost he was only beginning to understand. He walked slowly through the house, touching walls that no longer felt entirely solid. He could feel the energy of the night humming faintly beneath his fingertips. The shadows responded, curling around him, moving with a strange rhythm. They were alive, yes, but obedient to him now, hesitant, waiting for his command. He could feel the power inside him, a mixture of fear and grief transformed into something potent, something he could shape. A sound made him stop. Soft at first, almost like breathing, then clearer, the stranger's voice. "You have done well," it said. "You have embraced the night without surrendering to it. That is rare. Few survive what you have faced." Michael turned, but the stranger did not appear. The voice seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere, vibrating in the air and the shadows in his own thoughts. I'm still me," Michael said, uncertain. "Even with all of this?" "Yes," the stranger replied. "But you are also more. You carry the night inside you now. A piece of it will never leave. You can use it, or it can use you. That is the truth of transformation." Michael swallowed hard. He felt the pull of the shadows, the lingering echoes of the night he had endured. He could feel the faces he had seen, the voices he had heard, the shapes of memory and fear twisting together inside him. And yet he felt a strange calm. The fear was no longer a chain. It was a guide, a tool. He could bend it, shape it, and if he chose, wield it. A soft whisper reached him, familiar and aching. "Stay forever." Michael froze. His mother's voice, or something like it, floated on the edges of the room. He could feel the warmth of her presence, comforting and sharp at once. The pull of the stranger's world was strong, inviting, almost irresistible. For a moment he wondered, what if he surrendered? What if he let himself be consumed, embraced fully by the night? Would the pain end? Would he see her again truly? Then he shook his head, clearing the thought. He had made his choice before. He had chosen to return to himself, to face the world outside, to carry the grief with him rather than trade it for comfort. He could feel the night lingering, yes, but it did not own him. Not completely. He had survived. He had transformed. And that meant something. "You have power now," the stranger said, voice soft but weighty. "But remember this, every choice echoes. Every night leaves a mark. You have chosen life outside. That is rare. Few would have had your courage." Michael took a deep breath, feeling the shadows settle around him, soft and obedient. He could feel the pull of the stranger, the night and the whispers lingering at the edge of his mind. And yet he felt a flicker of strength, a reminder that he had survived fear, grief, and temptation. He was still himself. Then the whisper returned closer this time, a single word echoing in his mind. "Forever." Michael shivered, realizing the truth. He had survived the night, but the night had not fully released him. A part of it remained, woven into his being, lingering in his shadow, in his mind. He would live with it now and perhaps always. And in that there was both fear and power, both danger and hope. He walked to the window, looking out at the quiet world beyond. The moon hung low, silver and calm. The house was still, but the air thrummed faintly, a reminder that the night had not ended. It had merely changed form. It was inside him now, a companion, a guide, a force waiting to be understood. Michael closed his eyes, feeling the power within him, feeling the echoes of his mother's voice, the whispers of the stranger, the pull of the night. He understood now. He had survived, transformed, and yet the story was not over. The night would always call, the shadows would always watch, and the choice would remain. He had lived through fear, faced grief, and emerged changed. And somewhere in the unseen corners of the world, the stranger waited, patient and silent, knowing that Michael had passed the final test, but also knowing that the night never truly releases those who touch it. Michael opened his eyes and smiled faintly, a mixture of resolve and wonder. He was still himself. He was more than himself, and he was ready. The whispers echoed one last time, soft and distant, almost like a memory. "Stay. Forever." Michael stepped forward into the quiet house, carrying the night inside him, knowing that the world outside would never be quite the same, and that perhaps neither would he.